welcome in everybody to PEC Match Point. We have got a jam-packed show here today. PEC Match Point is your premier destination for all things Power Esports Conference. You want to not miss a single thing. We've got highlights. We've got debates from the voices around the league to bring you all of the action. Carson's going to take a deep dive into Rocket League. Had a massive game this week that affected the top of the standings. Who is the front runner in the pack? He'll break it all down for us. Again, we're going to go inside the PEC Overwatch 2 edition. Who's in the national championship? Who are the teams to watch out for? And we'll look ahead to week number 5 and tell you what matchups you need to make sure you tune into. It's all brought to you by the Idaho Air National Guard. And let's get in to what happened in week 4 because it was a doozy. Starting off in Rocket League, we had the two teams on the top half of the standings, the top two teams in the standings, really. They entered facing off against each other. It was Baylor and it was Boise State. They're both undefeated. Last week, our casters all were hyping up Baylor, and they proved all of those predictions right. The Bears took care of Boise State, giving the Broncos their first loss. It was a 3-0 sweep to get control of first place. It was an incredibly close series, though, as you see some of the highlights right now. 4-3, 3-2, 1-0 were your scores in order. Every single game decided by one goal. Boise State just couldn't quite get it done. Big shout out to Andy. He led the way, 4 goals, 3 assists, and 7 saves for the Bears. While Preston, he put in 3 goals and 2 saves for Boise State. Unfortunately, not quite enough as the Bears take care of business. Syracuse right off their second win in a row. They took down Ohio State 3-0. Both those teams now at 2-2 after 4 weeks. The Orange defense, which we have talked about all season, held Ohio State to just 3 goals. Tiz RL led the way, 5 goals for Syracuse in the win. Gaines did all they could. All 3 Ohio State goals were scored by him, but it wasn't quite enough. Nebraska, big win for the Cornhuskers. Their first of the season. They took down Minnesota 3-0 in a sweep. Every single Cornhusker, get this, scored at least 5 goals. Creed RL scoring 5, adding 9 assists as well. Alfie won for the Gophers. Did score 5 goals, had 11 saves. It wasn't quite enough. And Kansas and Utah face off in what might be an early contender for series of the season so far. Back and forth throughout. The Jayhawks jump out to a 2-1 lead. Utah forces a Game 5 behind a 2-0 win where Kelpie nets both goals in a must-win game. And Game 5 did not disappoint. We needed overtime to find out who the winner was going to be.
Oh, and the shot comes through, but Kelpie's denied. This is where mistakes are going to be likely to happen. Swift with a good demo onto Hydro. This is it. This is it. For all the and Swift will bury that ball in the back of the net to give Kansas an overtime win to put them 3-2 on the series. Oh, man.
This is
drama.
crazy.
Drama.
You know, that first match got me a little bit scared.
A little worried.
Big win for the Jayhawks. We take a look at the standings, see where everybody is at the end of this week. Again, Baylor on top. They're 4-0. They're looking really dominant. Michigan State, they had the bye there at 2-1. Boise State right alongside them. Syracuse, Ohio State, and Kansas kind of make up that middle group. Utah would have loved that win. And then at the bottom, we've got Nebraska and Minnesota. But this is a very, very tight Rocket League standing. A lot can change as we get through the fall semester. As we head over now into Overwatch. Massive series here between Syracuse and Ohio State. These was the heavyweight bout, and Ohio State did not disappoint. They pull off a 3-1 victory. The Buckeyes are now 4-0, and it was the Orange first loss of the season. So Syracuse now down at 2-1, and Ohio State, they are absolutely rolling through everybody. That DPS line is putting up a ton of damage. We're going to hear more about them later on in the show as we kind of dive deeper into PEC Overwatch. In other games, Boise State, after a second bye, they were able to get on the board. Finally, a 3-0 win over Baylor. The Broncos, they dominated last year. Now they're just 1-1. Minnesota, Nebraska was postponed. If you need any updates on their score, make sure you head over to pec.legos.gg. And we talked about Utah and Kansas in Rocket League. That wasn't the only epic series. The Utes, who everybody has said is a sleeping giant, started the season 0-2. Their chance to kind of make some noise in the PEC was on its final leg, and they took on undefeated Kansas. And after they forced a Game 5, the Utes came alive and let everybody know they're back in business.
Like, series-winning fight there, but Kansas sustains long enough to survive.
Falls apart there.
And I'm going to clench my cheeks a little here.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It's not great here. It's not looking good. That's 2 minutes though off the clock for Utah to work with here. They're back down to about the same amount of time that Kansas had to make the same distance though.
Okay, an aggressive annihilation potentially is their win condition here. Fake Alfie looking to build Blade.
They also have
98%.
OC. They also. Oh no, they have Blade. They don't have OC, but they might get Wu Yang all here at the spike.
Spears himself! By the right, spears himself! Fake Alfie Blade looking to compensate maybe for the
like Teddy down too!
Blade might be stronger. That might be the series! Oh no!
That's it. That's going to be it.
Man.
And that's going to end the undefeated run of Kansas here in Overwatch PEC. Utah proving themselves to be a very formidable foe, a true dark horse here in the Overwatch conversation going into Vegas here next semester.
Wow.
Cannot wait to see what Utah does with that. Again, everybody's been waiting for them to make noise, and now they just did. Again, everybody's still chasing Ohio State. Buckeyes at 4-0. They're beating up on everybody they played. We've got a giant mix of teams there. Kansas and Syracuse, they're 2-1. Boise State, they're 1-1. Minnesota, 1-1 as well. The Gophers were on the bye. And then Utah, look out for them at 1-2. And don't forget those teams at the bottom. We saw in Rocket League, Nebraska make some noise. Maybe the Cornhuskers can do the same thing here. It's been absolutely epic as we now jump ahead to Valorant, where there was more massive matchups across the board. Boise State looking very strong right now. They are maybe the favorites as the team to beat, as we heard on Inside the PEC a few weeks ago. They kept pace with Ohio State, who's at the top of the standings, as the Broncos took down Baylor with some dominating wins, including a 13-0 on Bind to set Boise State up. Skies and Cost, by the way, in this series, both posted 2-0 KDs. Absolutely insane. Baylor, couple bright spots. Truth Messenger put up a very solid performance. He had a match-high 38 kills, but unfortunately just not quite enough to slow down that Boise State squad that has been rolling through every single team. Boise State wasn't the only team that had a massive performance this week in Valorant. Utah, they got up to 2-1. They swept through Kansas. A heroic performance by Superman, dropping 45 kills, another 2-0 KD. There were some players absolutely popping off this week. He helped power the Utes to a victory. Nebraska with a massive upset in Valorant. We heard a few weeks ago on Inside the PEC, Minnesota's looking like a dark horse, maybe a top 4 team come Vegas next year, and Nebraska took care of business 2-1. They get their first win. Curious to see how they respond and how Minnesota will respond as well. And then Ohio State, they were looking to become the first Valorant squad to reach 4-0. They're taking on a Syracuse team that's had some good performances but hasn't been able to string together consistency, and Des had a monster performance to have the Buckeyes come out on top.
I'm loving where the Ohio State team is on this map, and it's a bonus round. Des playing aggressive, but getting a kill
too early. Gonna get taken out by Monster, but Bot with a bucket a dream, and there
we're going
goes
home
Pat
early
to end it. Ohio State with a 13-1 victory on map 2.
As I said in the standings, it is Ohio State on top. The Buckeyes are looking absolutely insane. Boise State is right behind them. Kind of a crazy 1-2 mix. The defending champ, Michigan State, they're all the way down at 4, but they're only a few games back. Utah sandwich there in the middle. Kansas, Minnesota, Baylor, Nebraska, Syracuse rounded out. Again, keep your eyes on Nebraska. That big win over Minnesota could absolutely mean a lot of things for them, building momentum in the second half of the fall semester. And finally in Smash, we had some absolutely fantastic games. Boise State able to grab their first win of the year. They took down Baylor. Broncos actually able to hold on. Baylor won the first set of match 1 and match 2, but Boise State, they closed it out. They won 14-9, 14-8. Syracuse, they were able to keep pace as well with a 2-0 win over Ohio State. The Buckeyes managed to keep it close. Match 1 decided by only 3 stocks. The Orange had to go to a tiebreaker in match 2 as Syrup was able to pull things out, a clutch 14-11 win for the Orange. But we talked about it last week. All eyes were on that Nebraska-Minnesota game, appearing as the 2 top teams in the standings. It did not disappoint. Every single match was decided by 2 stocks or less. Minnesota took match 1, 12-11. Nebraska came back with a 16-14 win in match 2, thanks to a tiebreaker win by Smoothie. And in match 3, it was Smoothie again who had the pressure on him, taking on Doug Todd. It was a winner-take-all match. Winner of this is atop the standings, and Smoothie gonna be able to get it done and put Nebraska at a perfect 4-0. Absolutely massive for them. There were a lot of question marks. Had Nebraska played a real schedule, and they absolutely proved it. They're at 4-0. Michigan State was on the bye, so the Spartans, they're at 3-0. That's going to be an absolutely fantastic match. It's Big Ten across the board, by the way, as Minnesota, despite the loss, rounds out that top 3. Syracuse, Boise State, Kansas, all right there, and Ohio State and Baylor kind of looking to turn things around, and they still got plenty of time. Joining us again this week, it's good friend of the show, Carson Cass. Last week, Carson took us all around the league, his power rankings for every single title. This week, though, Carson, you're telling me you want to zone in specifically on Rocket League. There were some massive matchups. So what does the Carson Cass Rocket League power rankings look like now?
Thank you very much, Mike. It's been a great week of Rocket League. Talking about the bottom of the standings here is 9-8. Minnesota 9, Nebraska 8, Nebraska 3-1, Minnesota. And what was a tough battle, but a very fun one to watch overall. 7 is Ohio State after the 3-0 loss to Syracuse. Syracuse had a great game. Ohio State just couldn't keep up. The Buckeyes were short and just couldn't really find the rotations as well as they had hoped against the Orange, but still hung in for a few minutes in a lot of these games. I think it was a bit closer. That team is going to be a good team in the midfield once they finally play those Utah and those Kansases. Speaking of which, your 6 team will be Utah, who just lost 3-2 to Kansas, who is your 5 team. Jayhawks look great. They look primed to be dominant in the mid-tier. As we move to the higher tier, some big game happened this week. Boise State upset by the Baylor Bears. All games, a margin of 1-goal victory for the Baylor Bears over the Broncos. A 3-0 win, but not without it being close, my friends. Last game was 1-0. The Baylor Bears really have struggled on the offensive side, but they've made up for it entirely on that defense. Hawks and Handy run a tight ship in the back lines, and it's almost impossible to score on this Baylor team. That being said, 4 down 1's going to be Syracuse at that 2-2 spot. 3 going to be Michigan State, as now they're still and have 1 loss to Boise, but just not as good as I see. Boise now 2 down 1 as well, and the Baylor Bears move up 3 to the number 1 overall spot. It's been a good week of Rocket League. Can't wait for the next. And I'm Carson Cass, signing off from Syracuse University.
Thanks, Carson. Appreciate the insight as always. That Baylor team looking really, really scary. I can't wait to see who can run them down. We're going to take a quick break here on PEC Match Point. You don't want to go anywhere, though. It's inside the PEC, but one of my favorite segments of the year. We're getting Overwatch casters. They're going to break it all down. Players to watch. National championship predictions. Bold predictions. You don't want to miss it. It's all coming up here on PEC Match Point.
It's the end of a good day's work in Idaho. Time to punch out. Time to check in and catch up. Time to remind ourselves that what we work for isn't a paycheck. It's to make the good things we have even better. So here's to your good day's work. Idaho Central Credit Union. We believe money is a thing. It's not everything.
My friends know me as Garrett, but I'm also Master Sergeant Raxter. This is my life in the Air National Guard.
Welcome back to PEC Match Point. As you know, we've been going around the league in the PEC, getting everything you need to know about all the titles. Today, we're going to take an in-depth look at Overwatch. But first, if you need any more PEC action from the Power Esports Conference, head over to the official website for everything you need from power rankings, player profiles, predictions, analysis on the biggest matchups. It's all there. Stay informed, stay connected, and stay ahead on all things PEC. Head over to pec.leagueos.gg. Nearly halfway into the fall season, but that's not even the full picture. We've got the spring ahead of us as well. It's time to hear what you need to know for PEC Overwatch. I've got a trio of very talented casters representing some of the schools. We've got Maya from Utah, Marshall from Kansas, and Bryce coming in from Boise State. We're going to talk about all things Overwatch with you guys. And Maya, let's start with you, and I'm going to see if you're biased because this question does apply to you.
Okay.
We've got 3 newcomers right in the league this year. It's Utah, Baylor, and Minnesota.
Yeah.
Who do you expect to make the most noise in Overwatch?
Okay, so my answer is going to sound biased at first, but I promise I can back it up with facts. Okay, so hear me out. Hear me out on this one. I say Utah, and not just because it's my school, but because I don't know if anybody else caught the game against Kansas last week. Kansas, who was top seed number 1, Utah, who was bottom of the leaderboard number 7, and they managed to take them out underdog style in a best of 5, going to all 5 maps. And so I think as kind of a scrappy underdog sort of team, I think that's what Utah's going to bring, that's going to really kind of change everything around and kind of bring a new excitement to the league, is that they're this team that's going to fight a little quote-unquote dirty. They're going to claw and crime their way. I think they won like in 2 different overtimes where they shouldn't have won, and they did. And so that's why I say they're going to bring the most noise here. So biased sounding, but it's valid, I think.
Marshall, you had that front row seat to that game they're talking
Oh,
about.
I don't know about you, Maya, but I had an absolute blast casting. That was such an amazing series to watch, and I have to agree with you that Utah is going to be the school in Overwatch that's going to make the most noise. I mean, just their ability to stay stuck in to claw and fight their way back and stay competitive in that series alone speaks volumes to me. Especially with being able to take a map off of both Syracuse and Ohio State early on to start the season, that's an accomplishment in and of itself, given how well they've been performing.
And Bryce, you're sort of on that mountaintop, right? Boise State's the defending national champs here in Overwatch. But what newcomer are you thinking maybe you hearing around that program that maybe is the most scary?
You know, if you were to ask me this question about a week ago, I think I would have talked about Baylor because of their in-depth roster. They have a lot of stuff to pull from, but after this week I am going to lean more towards that Minnesota pick. I feel like they have something very similar to Baylor. They have a very deep pool of people to pull from. They have very, very large communities. They have a lot of people that would be interested, and I think Minnesota is going to be one of the people to watch out for. I did think that Utah is showing a lot of progress. They did a large number to Kansas, but I think that Minnesota is just going to take that little bit of an edge, and I really can't wait to see them on the big screen when they play Boise State eventually.
Now, it's a little tricky for you guys. The other casters had it easy because the season wasn't half over, the fall semester at least. But Maya, what's your game that's left to be played that you were saying must tune in for Overwatch? You've got to watch this.
I mean, for me personally, I'm a big sucker of champs duking it out, so I can't wait for the Ohio State-Kansas game because they are top of the leaderboard right now, and I love seeing the two top teams, have to try and prove who deserves that number one spot, and I always find it's both teams put a lot of heart into games like that, I feel like, and they want it bad, so I think it's always an entertaining watch.
Marshall, what do you got your eyes on? What do you got circled in the calendar?
I mean, if you had asked me literally less than a day ago, I would have said Kansas Utah with the hindsight benefit. But yeah, I would have to agree with Maya once again. The Kansas Ohio game is going to be one to really watch out for. That's going to be a really solid, really competitive game. It's probably going to go much the same way that Kansas Utah did. I see that going all 5 maps and being really close, 1 or 2 fight series.
What about you, Bryce? What's the game to watch? You joining in on them with that game or no?
Honestly, I'm going to take it a little bit of a different direction, and you might call me biased, but my name's actually Bryce. I'm going to say the BSU-Kansas game that's coming up here pretty quick. BSU was or Boise State University was kind of struggling week 1 with that loss to Syracuse. That was kind of devastating. However, over the past few weeks, they have been on the up and up when it comes to Overwatch, and I really think they just had a little bit of a slippery start. Kansas is an incredible opponent that has proven time and time again to be more than a match for Boise State University, and I do think that is going to be the one to tune into. However, not to take away from the other two, you definitely should tune into those two, but my money
But watch all the games, actually. Yeah. All the games
are equally
as good.
All the games. All the games on all the platforms.
Go back and watch the Kansas-Utah Overwatch game, especially the Saravasa map on point 1. I don't know what your reaction, Maya, to that. What was it? All 10 ultimates going off at the same time at the last little bit of that point.
I was doing play-by-play, and I think I kind of started going, and then oh my gosh, there's so many ultimates.
It's just I think I used the word quintessence to describe that sequence of events of being that is this is Overwatch right here, just everybody dumping their ults at the exact same time and it just being madness.
Yeah, that's a good word. I'm gonna steal that one.
Released all over again. Oh my gosh.
Now let's zoom in a little bit. You guys are highlighting the teams, but there's individual players who are popping off. Maya, who's that player? Who's that MVP for Overwatch that you're telling everybody watch out for?
It's hard for me to say and not be I'm a numbers person at heart, and so if I'm going just purely off of numbers, it's King Donut from Ohio State. Their KDA is wildly impressive, and just watching them play when I commentated our game against Ohio State, and it was just brutal the amount of damage that it's King Donut did. But then, of course, on the other side, for my own personal biases, because I know the team, I talk to the guys, I think they're all fantastic. I would have to say No Sam for Utah, being both the team captain and also their kind of sub-villain tank. Anytime No Sam enters the game, the energy just changes, and I think that really marks a good player.
Marshall, what about you?
I gotta represent the Rock Chalk here. I gotta say Sinks. I mean, if you want to talk about like one of the best support players playing right now, Sinks is up there. Once he can get online in a game, like he can make or break a team fight, and he can even help wrap up maybe a fight that's maybe losing a little bit. Like his consistency and ability to always be a fight changer and an impact on a team fight, to me speaks volumes of him being a player to watch this year.
Bryce, you want to change your name to Bias here and pick your own guys, or you want to go elsewhere?
You know what? I'm gonna check my own guys once again, but I mean, can you really fault me? I was kind of flipping off between two different players, Strider and Clear. Strider being Boise State's main tank player, Wrecking Ball connoisseur. I have watched this guy play Wrecking Ball for the past 2 years, and it is always a joy to watch. And with Wrecking Ball kind of making its way back into the meta, I'm so happy for it. I love Wrecking Ball so much. His metas are so awesome. But I think that with him in the meta, he's going to be one of the people to keep your eyes on. He's able to get it done. Even with a lot of weird stuff going on in the meta, maybe stuff that doesn't quite favor him, he's able to get it done, especially with a little bit of help from Clear. A OWCS contender, plays an incredible Tracer DPS game, can turn the tide of almost any fight with just about any ultimate. I have never seen a situation where I haven't thought if Clear was here, this would be all cleared up.
You guys are the worst
I love
at these
it.
puns.
I love the
sure.
puns. The puns are amazing. You got to keep them going, Bryce. I love it.
I try. My co-host has about strangled me on several occasions.
Oh yeah, my production manager called me a millennial for like half the stuff I crack on stream, so I'm right there with you. Yeah, I get it.
This is the one where you guys are going to have to put your money down. This is going to be the clip that's going to go viral if you're wrong. What is your national championship next spring? What is the prediction? Lock it in, Maya. We are holding you to your word. You cannot change.
I can't change. Oh, the stress, the pressure. Okay, I think probably on one side I would see Ohio State. Having watched them play, just like all of their matches so far, they've been really dominant. And even in like, if you go watch some of their scrims as well, some of the stuff they're doing is just, it doesn't make sense to me, but I respect it. So I would say they'd be on one side, and then I have like 3 teams I could see realistically being on the other side of this fight against Ohio State. And it really is so dependent on how things shake out in a little bit. I could see Kansas, again, like top of the leaderboard. Only has lost 3 maps this entire, like, conference so far. Like, you know, they're very strong looking. Syracuse looks very strong. Even Boise looks pretty strong. But if I had to put my money in my mouth, I'm going to say I believe in the underdogs. I believe in the rough, scrappy, clawing fight, and I think it's going to be Ohio State and Utah.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Okay.
Marshall, I mean, you got a lot of Kansas shout outs. Are you going to go biased as well?
I think if we're gonna be objective here, I would agree that Ohio State could make it to the finals, and I gotta go with the defending champions. I think Boise State have another, like, a really solid shot to get to the finals. In a world on paper, if we're going strictly on paper, I foresee a Boise Ohio final.
All right, Bryce, what do you got? What's your national championship? What is it?
I'm going to have to agree with Marshall on this one 100% here. Ohio State is going to be the team to beat this year. Boise State definitely has the capability to do so. They've proven it on several occasions, not only in scrims, but also in their latest game against Baylor this week. Just completely showing dominance and really getting back into the flow of what you expect out of Boise State and the defending champs. I do think it's going to be an uphill battle. I think Ohio State, Kansas, and all the other teams that we haven't seen yet are going to be an incredible roadblock, but it's going to be one that makes a team even stronger. And I think, I'm gonna call this now. This is going to be the closest championship run that we have ever seen in the PEC. And I know we're only comparing it to 1 year, but I foresee some incredible games.
Well, you maybe kind of answered this question in your other statement, Maya. But what's your bold prediction for the PEC? Is it going to be Utah making the championship, or are you going to go even bolder and say the Utes win? What's your bold prediction for the year?
Well, okay, so my bold prediction is Utah makes it to the championship. My bolder prediction is Utah's going to win the championship. They are the underdog, and like I said, I love an underdog story. I like to root for the little guy, And we are the little guy coming into this. But that Kansas game gave me that small, tiny kernel of hope in those overtimes, that little tiny spark of it could be possible. And so my boldest prediction is Utah is going to win.
3-0?
Oh, no.
Okay, I want to see how bold you were going to get. I want to see how bold I can get you to go.
Just double or triple down on that one.
It's not that big. No, I would see it. It would go to all 5 maps, and it would be an overtime, and it would be really, really, really close, and they would have to pull out a miracle. But bold is a miracle, as they say.
Okay, I don't know if you can get bolder than that, Marshall, but I'll give you the best shot.
I don't think I can get much bolder than that. But when I was talking with the guys before coming and doing this, I definitely was talking about, like, I see them making a deep run. I see them making it to the semifinals and making it a super close series in that semifinals. Whether or not they make it past that's up to them. But I definitely can see Kansas getting to that semifinal and giving whoever they play a real run for their money.
You got the tough task here, Bryce, because you just can't say Boise State's going to win. It's not bold to say the national champion
that is not
repeats.
bold at all.
So what's your bold prediction?
Man, my bold prediction is that Boise State doesn't drop a single map until the very final.
Ooh.
That's my prediction. They dropped their 3 maps to begin with. They lost the first game against Syracuse. They said, you know what? Those are the only 3 maps we're going to drop. We're here to win games. We're not here to lose games. We got to keep winning. So that's my prediction. Boise State doesn't drop any more maps until the championship drive.
Well, I'll let my guys know that so that on the 28th when we face you, they work really extra hard to steal that map so your prediction doesn't come true.
I'll take a mental note. I'll take a mental note and let the guys know that, Bryce. I'll let them know.
Yeah, you'll let them know too.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll make sure that Kansas
and I'll let them know what I
take
said
at least
too.
one.
Yeah, I'll let my guys know as well, just to let them know. I got a lot on the line, but I believe in you. I believe in you.
We can make that. We can make that a
you.
viral clip real fast, no matter which way it goes. So I appreciate you 3 again, Maya, Marshall, and Bryce. Big shout out. Thank you for joining PEC Match Point. We're gonna have you guys back, hopefully in the spring semester. See how those predictions have kind of panned out when we're a little closer. But again, big shout out. Thank you guys for joining us. And again, as they said, PEC Overwatch, you do not want to miss. Anybody can take it home. There are so many teams at the top. Absolutely fantastic. And we're going to look ahead. What's coming up next week in the PEC? What are the matchups you need to know? That's all coming up on PEC Match Point.
My friends know me as Derek, but I'm also Master Sergeant Raxter. This is my life in the Air National Guard.
Welcome back into PEC Match Point. Been an absolutely epic show here today. Big shout out to the Idaho Air National Guard for bringing us all of the action. Again, if you missed it, highlights from week 4. Carson Addis power rankings. You want to make sure you go back and see who's at the top of that. Inside the PEC, the Overwatch 2 edition, we got really bold. We had some spicy takes, maybe some hot takes on who's going to make the national championship. Now it's time to head. Let's see what's coming up in week 5. Who is playing here? Because we've got some big matchups. Starting off, Minnesota taking on Michigan State, the Big Ten matchup here that has some massive implications, a couple of titles we'll get into. Kansas and Boise State, absolutely love this one. As we heard it inside the PEC, this is going to be a banger Overwatch match. Nebraska, they're starting to gain some steam in a couple titles. They're taking on Utah, who's also getting hot. Cannot wait to see how those two teams handle it. And then finally, Syracuse and Baylor, couple of epic matchups. I want to see how those two play out. As we take a look, let's see what is happening here in Rocket League. As I said, Minnesota, they're taking on Michigan State. The Spartans, they were runner-up last year, and maybe they're looking on the outside looking in at that top 4. Kansas and Boise State, the Broncos coming off their first loss. Going to be very curious to see how they do against Kansas. Nebraska just picked up their first win. They're taking on Utah. That one has a lot of implications for sort of that middle pack of the standings and who's able to move up. And finally, it's going to be Baylor taking on Syracuse. The Bears look absolutely unstoppable. But remember, Syracuse took Boise State to Game 5. Curious how the Orange are going to do against the Bears. And then Ohio State, they are on the bye. As we move ahead into Week 5 Overwatch, we've got a couple of teams. They're just trying to lick their wounds after a very tough week last week. Kansas taking on Boise State. The Jayhawks coming off that very heartbreaking Game 5 loss we saw earlier in the show. Curious to see how they do against Boise State. Nebraska and Utah. Can the Utes keep building momentum after that epic Game 5 win? And in the nightcap, it's Syracuse taking on Baylor. The Orange trying to keep pace because Ohio State, the top team in the standings, they're on a bye alongside Minnesota. Everybody wants to catch up up to the Buckeyes at 4-0. In Valorant, we've got dynamic matchups across the board. A couple of them that you're going to want to make sure you tune into, as we've got Minnesota taking on Michigan State. Again, this is a Minnesota squad that a lot of people were hyping up. Not sure if they've delivered so far, but I think they stand a good chance here to make up some ground on Michigan State. Boise and Kansas, the Broncos have been looking absolutely fantastic. I expect Boise State to do really, really well in this one. Nebraska and Utah, again, Nebraska all of a sudden won a lot of games last week, and I bet you that momentum is starting to build around that program. Watch out for them. And then in the nightcap, Syracuse and Baylor, both teams, they know that they haven't been off to the best start this year. They want to turn things around, had some inconsistency. This could be a great chance to sort of start that winning streak. And once again, it's the top-seeded Buckeyes in Valorant. They are on a bye. Everybody wants to catch up to that team who is putting up kills in the bunches. And in Smash, we've got a massive Big Ten matchup again. Remember, the Big Ten is 1-2-3 in the standings right now, and Minnesota and Michigan State going to square off as they fight off for that second spot. The Spartans still undefeated. Minnesota, they went to 3 games in an epic series against Nebraska next week. Cannot wait to see where that happens. Boise State and Kansas, both teams just picked up their first win recently. The Broncos trying to keep pace. A lot of people, I know Carson had them kind of high in his power rankings for how they started this season. See if they'll be able to make good on his promise. And finally, the non-Big Ten team with a winning record, it is Syracuse at 3-1. They're trying to take on Baylor. Don't want to fall for that trap game. Meanwhile, it's the top-ranked Cornhuskers and Ohio State. They're both on byes. As we go once again through the matchups that you know what to expect for Week 5 in the PEC. It's Minnesota, Michigan State, Big Ten rivals duking it out. Maybe a battle here for who gets to claim the color blue as their primary color. It's Boise State and it's Kansas. Should be an absolutely epic series, especially in Overwatch. You do not want to miss that. Nebraska, they're taking on Utah. Couple of games, especially Overwatch, where Utah's starting to gain some ground. Curious to see if they can take out the Cornhuskers. And Syracuse taking on Baylor. That Rocket League game, I think Baylor will win, but the question is, how hard can Syracuse make them work for it? That's going to be what we're keeping our eye on. And that will do it for PEC Match Point. Can you believe it? Week 5 is already here. We're almost halfway through the fall semester, but don't forget, we still got the whole spring. The season's barely a quarter over. It should be a very exciting one. Remember, if you want to stay caught up on all of the action, pec.leagueos.gg has you covered for everything PEC, the premier Power Esports Conference. That'll do it for me, Michael Fisher. Big shout out to the Idaho Air National Guard. We will be back next week to recap everything that happened and look ahead to Week 6 on PEC Match Point.